dangerous, large carnivore out there.
And I saw that bird pick a young deer off the road and fly away.
And it was just about getting dark, and we started panicking, running down this ridge, not really having any clue what was throwing rocks in our vicinity, good-sized rocks. And I stopped long enough to get a 357 out of my backpack and look back, and that's when I saw it. I saw one.
For a week, the town's defiance was being harassed by a werewolf. And it's actually attacked two railroad workers, killed livestock, just a lot of weird stuff that was going on.
Good Sunday evening, Monster Xers. This is Gunnar Monson, your host, along with my good friend and Bigfoot researcher, Shane Corson. I am also the founder of Sasquatch Coffee Company, and you can find us at www.squatchcoffee.com. Today, we have as our guests Dorraine Fisher and Thomas Marcum of the Crypto Crew, and we're excited to get chatting with them. Coming up, a couple of events are coming up this year. The Ohio Bigfoot Conference is coming up May 13th through the 15th, and the International Bigfoot Conference, the first one ever, will be September 2nd through the 4th in Kennewick, Washington. Shane and I are scheduled to speak in Kennewick at the International Bigfoot Conference this year. With me, as always, is my good friend and consummate Bigfoot researcher, Shane Corson. Shane, how are you today?
Hello. I'm doing well, Gunnar, and glad to be in a stationary position for the show, unlike last week where I was on the road.
And you're on vacation. You're in Southern California. Have you been doing any Bigfooting down there?
Not a whole lot. I've been doing some hiking. Not a whole lot of Bigfooting to be done down here. I mean, you could go to the, I'm close to the Cleveland National Forest and the Angeles National Forest, which is close to San Bernardino in L.A. And there's, there are a few reports out that way. And I know there are some researchers out that do stuff in those areas. I'm on vacation, though, and so I really was trying to skip that a little bit, though I am out in some rural area where my folks live in, so I'd like to do some hiking out here, and I've done that, some hiking. There's a lot of Indian artifacts to be found, and I love going out looking for them. So it's one of my pastimes, and that's what I've been up to.
Cool, and I saw some pictures that you were doing the theme park thing down there with the family, so that's cool. I'm glad you're having a relaxing a little bit. Relaxing,
enjoyed the theme parks down here. Got a little bit of ice on my eye. I was out hiking and wasn't really paying attention, and there happened to be a big rock face, and I smacked my head right on it and managed to give myself a gash and a black eye, but I've had worse. So
come back with a little bit of a war wound and a story to tell. That'll be fun.
Yeah, a little Southern California love.
So I'm ready to bring our guests on. Like you said, we've got Thomas Marcum, who's the founder of the Crypto Crew, and Dorraine Fisher, who is a member. So
Yeah.
Let's, without further ado, let's bring those folks on.
All right.
Here we go. Thomas and Dorraine,
Hello.
are you there?
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Hello.
Hey,
Hello.
welcome to Monster X. How are you guys today?
Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you.
So, Thomas, tell us a little bit about we'll get started with a little bit of background of the Crypto Crew. What is the Crypto Crew for those that are uninitiated?
Well, we're just a group of guys and girls that we study and research Bigfoot and everything from UFOs to aliens to ghosts. We just have a broad spectrum of things we like to look into, but our main thing is Bigfoot.
That's our favorite.
And how long has the Crypto Crew been around?
I founded the group in 2011, but I'd been researching on my own when time permitted for many years before that.
What got you into the subject?
Well, that's a real good question. I can't point to any one event. Like some people may have a sighting and that sort of turns them on to Bigfoot. But even when I was a young child, probably 8, 10, 12-year-old, I'd seen some UFOs and some other odd things, and I kind of had an interest from a young age. And then when I was about 15 or so, I had an experience while hunting that at the time I didn't know was Bigfoot, but I found out years later that was, most likely what it was. And so it just kind of grew over time.
What was that experience?
Well, as me and my father was hunting, our dogs became frightened and terrified. They came back to us scared, and something was pacing us along a high wall, where they come and strip the coal and it leaves a high bench. That something was pacing us and following us. And we would shine lights in there and you couldn't see it. And you could hear it, but you couldn't see it. And most likely that was probably my Bigfoot. That was my first experience with a Bigfoot.
Cool. And Dorraine, what about you? What got you interested in the topic?
Well, a lot of different things, just like with Tom, but I think it was probably all my mother's fault. She started me watching In Search Of when I was pretty young. She was kind of hooked on that show, and I used to sit and watch that with her, and I think that's probably how it all got started. But over the years, I'm a hiker, and I have had experiences. Things have happened to me that I can't necessarily explain. And knowing what I know now about things, I think I probably had Bigfoot experiences several different times. And the first time would have been in Canada. I was visiting friends up in Western Ontario. They had a cabin, a pretty remote cabin on Lake of the Woods. And I went outside after dark, which, thinking about that now, wasn't the wisest thing. But anyway, I needed to get something out of my truck, and I went outside. It was very quiet outside. I couldn't hear hardly anything. And as I was closing the door of the truck, I paused for a minute, and I heard a whooping sound that was very odd to me. It sounded like a primate, and I remember thinking at the time, no other animal makes that sound except some kind of an ape. And I went inside and told my friends I just heard Bigfoot out in the woods, and of course they laughed and everybody thought it was really funny, and it kind of bothered me for the rest of that trip. Not really bothered me, I guess. It's just I was really wondering what I'd heard, and I guess it all came from there. So
now go ahead, Shane.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say with the Crypto Crew, Thomas, how you had this idea and you formulated it and created the Crypto Crew. Can you talk a little bit about how you went about, how did Dorraine get involved and some of the other people involved with Crypto Crew? How did they come into the picture?
Well, once I started the group and started making posts, there was other people who was interested, who was not actually in a group, but who was actually doing, research on their own. And they just kind of contacted me. And if I ain't mistaken, Dorraine was about the sixth person to actually join the group. So.
Yeah, I had contacted him and told him that I was a writer and I was interested in the subject and I wouldn't mind doing some writing for his website if he was open to that. And, of course, he was, and that's where it all started, so, with me.
Many years later, we're still working together.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. You guys must have clicked on some level, obviously.
Yes, exactly. We don't agree on everything, but we do click pretty well. We get along. We talk almost daily. So,
with the Crypto Crew, what are some of the goals for the Crypto Crew, and what have you feel you've accomplished? What's the overall idea for Crypto Crew? Is it just to share encounter stories? It's kind of like an active research partnership group?
Well, I can't speak for everyone that's in the group, but for my personal side of it, I want to know more about these, about Bigfoot, about the creature Bigfoot. And I'm sure a lot of us in our group have the same goal. We're not interested in trying to prove it to the world or to scientists or people like that. We want to know for a personal standpoint more about them and share it with like-minded people.
Right. We all have our personal missions, I think, but we have a common mission. So, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say a common mission, but you guys don't necessarily all agree at any given moment. You guys all have your own ideas or maybe possibly beliefs or experiences, correct?
Right, and I think that is probably a good thing in a sense. We have a tendency to keep each other sharp in that respect. We get inside our own heads a lot of times, and it helps us to have each other to shoot ideas off of and to remind each other that, we're being kind of narrow-minded about things. So I think that helps in a lot of respects. And
that's really interesting because, Thomas had mentioned, that there, as far as him personally, he's not out to prove this to science or anybody in general. He's really interested in the subject matter, the subject. How important, and Dorraine, I've talked to you about this, and I really enjoyed your comments, but how important is it, do you guys believe that science is involved in this subject? Should they take it seriously? And why are they not? How important is it that we get science involved, or, for those researchers out there or those enthusiasts that really want science involved or academia, how important is it? Is it important, or, where is science with this?
Well, we think they need to be more involved, and they are slowly becoming involved, but we think it's a little too slow. And there are a lot of reasons I think people blame different factions for why that is, but I don't know that there's any one explanation for it. I don't know. What do you think, Tom?
Well, I think scientists in general don't take the subject seriously because the water has been so muddy for so many years. You've got people pulling hoaxes and pranks, and it really lessens the value of true research and true findings because it makes everybody look at like, well, there's nothing to it. So and so hoaxed this or this fake, and so they don't take it serious. It may take years.
All they see is the fake stuff.
They may never take it. That's right.
So all that stands out is the hoaxes and the fake stuff. So it's really our job to keep on top of everything and keep it in the forefront.
Right. A lot of the most subtle things involved with research pass under the radar, don't get noticed. It's those things that are extreme, and usually it's a hoax involved or something of that nature. Usually,
right,
that gets the most publicity, and then of course science looks at that, and that's what they go, oh, here we go, another one. It's the fine details that I think gets passed on. You know, it's the real boots on the ground stuff. The stuff that you know, you can look at and go, okay, there's something there, but it's not thrown out there as you know, some huge propaganda thing. You know, that's the thing that gets passed, I believe, and that's unfortunate. And you know, I'd love for science to be involved more, but you know, a lot of people go, oh, you know, does science even matter? I mean, of course it matters, but do they, you know, they don't pay attention, and how do you get them to pay attention? I mean, do you guys have any thoughts on how, you know, will they ever pay attention? Will, you know, true science and academia really pay attention to this subject? I mean, as far as Bigfoot's involved, I mean, there's a whole other realm of stuff, but maybe it's, you know,
we hope
all
so.
intertwined. Yeah.
It sure is. So we hope so. We're watching and we're paying attention, but the basic thing that we need to do is we just need to keep doing what we're doing and not worry so much about what everyone else is doing. Be aware of the quiet ones in the community that aren't saying much, and they're just out there quietly doing the work that they do, and be careful of those. It's the ones that are making the noise that are really not contributing quite so much. They just like the publicity and just watch the quiet ones.
Really.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, Tom, go ahead.
Those that's making the most noise usually have the less substance to their findings.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree.
We find it very often. So.
Well, in this day and age, you know, you got the internet and there's all these other avenues to exploit yourself or share stuff, and you know, it's for a lot of people. They may start out on the right foot. They start getting a little bit of attention, and then they feel like they have to provide something every week or every day, and it gets to be so overwhelming. You know, you jump on Facebook or any other social media site, and it's just this stuff's out there everywhere. You know, it's just bam, bam, bam. You know, here's the Sasquatch, here's this, here's that, and before you know it, you know, for those, you know, I always feel bad for those coming into the subject. They don't know who to look at or who's actually going about the right way or the wrong way, and
exactly,
you know, they get turned off. And I think science is quite the same way. There's so many people out there promoting. It's hard to really grasp. You know, they need science needs substance, and most rational people need substance. They need something concrete and not a blurry picture, not a circle around a shadow, and you know, not a possible impression. That's unfortunate. But with the crypto crew, you know, you guys, I mean, Thomas, you've been doing research for a lot of years, and you guys, Dorraine, you're a fantastic writer. You compiled a lot of reports and data. You know, how do people, I mean, do you guys have a lot of people contact you and provide this stuff, or do you guys have to look for this stuff?
Well, we have quite a few people that do contact us, and
more all the time.
Do have to, well, yeah, but we do have to make efforts to reach out, because you know, people are still reluctant to talk about things they've seen. So we do have to do some reaching out, but we do get contacted a lot through email and then through Facebook and things like that. And people actually out in the community, if they know you're kind of interested in that type of subject.
I mean, I guess, you know, how do you guys get contacted daily or periodically? And what I would also ask you, what are some of the are Bigfoot reports or sightings at the top of those that are contacting? Is that what they're reporting, or are they contacting you with more paranormal stuff? What's the ratio there?
The majority of the contact I get is Bigfoot. I probably get, on average, I'll probably get 3 to 5 a week through email, not counting the ones on Facebook. It's hard to keep up with those.
Right.
But sometimes it's just a real short mention. Well, I saw something back when I was a kid. Or that's as far as they'll go with it. They really won't open up about it.
Yeah. Is that the same for you, Dorraine? I mean, you get, you know, a lot of contacts?
Not quite as many as what Tom, but I think more what I get is a lot of people who want to talk about what they've seen, and they want to talk to somebody that they trust. And somehow I've become that person. I've heard some pretty creepy stories right before I go to bed at night. And, I'm not supposed to tell anybody about them because they're almost too crazy to tell anyone. But I get a lot of that. I think people really need a means to be able to reach out and tell someone what's happened to them, what they've seen or heard. And there are still precious few of us that are really trustworthy in that sense. That there must be very few of us because, we are kind of in the minority here. People are really looking for somebody they can trust, and they do look on Facebook a lot of the time, and I know they do follow me for quite a while, and then all of a sudden one day I'll get a strange message from someone saying, I don't know how to tell you this, or you're not going to believe this, or I think you're someone I can trust, I need to tell you this story. And, of course, that's as far as it goes a lot of the time. But those people do find out that there are people that they can confide in the community, and I hope that gets better. I hope we can do better with that, and people can tell their stories more.
Yeah, that's really fantastic. It really is because I'm sure occasionally you'll get those people that sneak in as just somebody trying to pull one over on you. Or it's going to happen. I know it's happening. But you're also an open ear for those that don't know they want to share something extraordinary happens to them or something unknown to them happens to them. They just want an open ear. So I won't call you a psychiatrist. I'll call you a welcoming arm and an open ear to listen to what they have to share. And that's truly awesome because science as a whole really doesn't have that set aside. They don't have those that will that have the credentials, I guess you could say, to have an open ear to listen to some of these extraordinary stories and encounters. So it takes a lot of citizen scientists or enthusiasts to have an open ear that have experience with a lot of these stories and encounters. It's a special thing, and one thing I love about the Crypto Crew because you guys pretty much are open to a lot of things as far as listening to people, and that's special. And you guys catalog and do some fantastic blogs on this subject matter. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Oh, absolutely. And but really, it is important. It's hard to. After all these years of doing this stuff, do you guys either one of you get a feel for somebody that's being honest or somebody that's kind of just taking you for a ride?
Usually it's pretty obvious.
I think we do. Definitely. You can't really define it, but you kind of get a sense, a sixth sense of sorts, I suppose. But and I think you have to start out with a pretty keen instinct anyway to do this kind of stuff. So that too.
Yeah, I over the years doing a lot of over the phone and in-person interviews, I think I've developed a little bit of a strategy in my head and a little bit of discernment as to, and I always give that percentage where I could be wrong. But you've done this for a while, any profession, it takes practice, and you kind of get into a fold where you get a little bit of a feeling if somebody's trying to pull one over on you or if they're truly honest. And you could be wrong, of course, but it's I think the crypto
but there are a lot
really
of variables to consider, and whenever you're talking to anyone, and you have these variables in your head as you're discussing it, and we do the best we can.
Yeah, what are some of those variables? When you get someone that calls you or you interview someone the same person, how do you go about doing that interview or listening to somebody? Are you just quiet the whole time, or do you how do you do an interview?
Well, how do you do it where you are, Tom? You're in a small town and everything, so a lot of these people that you know personally.
Some of them I do know.
Right. And you have some sense of the reputation and.
Well, correct. Now, like my neighbor over here, I know him well enough to know that he's not going to fabricate a story. And when he's seen a Bigfoot across the road right down here below my house, when I interviewed him, I know that he is, I'm not trying to be mean toward him, but he's a kind of a simple type person. You could tell him you need an MP3. He wouldn't know what an MP3 was. He has no idea. He don't use a computer. He don't have a cell phone. They don't have long distance on their telephone. I mean, they're just kind of simple people. So if you're interviewing somebody like that, it's kind of different than interviewing somebody who is more up to speed on things. So in those instances, you have to kind of ask the right question to get the information out. Some people say, well, you're leading him into the answers. Well, if you don't give him something to go by, you won't get an answer. It's just they're that type of people. But there's red flags when people tell stories. There's always red flags if they're being dishonest that you can pick up on.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's just from experience in doing it.
Right.
So, and we wouldn't want to give away all of them.
Yeah. What's that,
but each interview is different, and depending on their story, you have to adjust on the fly and ask the appropriate questions, and that just takes time and dealing with people.
It takes a lot of time and a lot of practice, and at times some people can be very compelling with their stories, and show you things that you think, and you're looking at it, oh, that's interesting. And they seem very honest. And a lot of times they are very honest. They're just wrong. You go look at something and go, well, okay. And I've done this time and time again where, being involved with Sasquatch subjects, I can look at something and go, well, that's a bear, or that's this or that. And a lot of times they're open to that. A lot of times they get a little bit offended and go, no, I'm not stupid. This is not a bear. But, it can be a difficult thing.
Definitely.
A lot of times that's the people who are supposedly researchers. They get offended quick. I mean, they'll show you a picture of a shadow, and if you say, well, I think it might be a shadow, they get mad at you.
Oh, they get mad. Yeah, they can get really angry at you. And that's what I love about researchers or enthusiasts that I think really take this stuff serious and really want answers, is that they're not so keen to call anything Bigfoot with, unless it's an absolute, which right now there's not. And so they're willing to collaborate and share stuff and have people look at their evidence or supposed evidence or what they think may be something interesting. That's the stuff that I really look at and enjoy. It's those that come at you going, okay, here's a Bigfoot. Here's a Bigfoot impression. Here's a Sasquatch nest, a Sasquatch tree break. I mean, did you see it do it? No. You got to have, it's a fine line to walk with some of these people, and that's unfortunate. But as investigators or researchers, if you're really true to the subject, like you guys are, I mean, very open but discerning, is that you look at all the evidence and you don't make any, definitive suggestions or anything based on, in conclusions.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and that's
Tom
very
has said
important.
1 million times, that, well, if this is a fake, it's a really good one. He hasn't said that 1 million times. He doesn't say, well, I think this is a Bigfoot. He says, well, if this is a fake, it's an awfully good one. I think this might be the real thing, in my opinion. So, and, how many times have you said that, Tom? Maybe 3 or 4 times out of 100, maybe.
Yeah.
We reject quite a bit of stuff.
In today's world, everybody's looking for things on the cheap, so they buy the cheapest Bigfoot costume they can find, and you see it over and over.
Right. And then once they post it or it's out there, it gets it's funny. You'll see that and you're all fake, whatever, and people share it and you're like, oh, that's fake. And then 2 years down the road, someone will post it in a group or online going, oh, look what this is. And you're like, wow, man, it's back again?
And there's always a group of people that believe it.
Well, people find stuff because it's on the internet. It gets found again like it was new, and somebody takes it and reposts it. and you're dealing with the same something that's already been.
It's new to somebody.
Processed,
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's what we deal with a lot of the time too. So it's a hard job. I want to say that it's not an easy job sifting through all this stuff.
It's a hard job without getting paid.
Right, exactly. The money is awful. Don't go into it for the money.
No. I'm only about $10,000-$20,000 in the hole for the last few years.
I hear you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I've
we always need equipment. So.
Yeah. But what are some of the more so? We're kind of talking about some of the the lesser things of these interviews and things they report to you. What are some of the more positive things? What are some of the more interesting things you guys have come across or been sent to you that you found really compelling that you guys have covered with the Crypto Crew? I'd like to keep it more Bigfoot related. I'm not opposed to cryptid related. But what are some of the really compelling or really interesting stories you guys have come across?
Well, for me...
Yeah, I know that's a broad question. I understand.
Well, for me, I guess it would be the interview I conducted with the guy who was out hunting, or actually he was scouting, and there was a Bigfoot. Well, he didn't know it was a Bigfoot at first. There was something in the bush in front of him. And it stands up and it's a Bigfoot, but there's another one off to his left, if I remember correctly. And he actually shot it, and he got the game wardens involved, and he had visits from unnamed government entities who told him not to talk about it. And the interview itself is like an hour long, and I thought it was real compelling. The guys. He becomes emotional during the interview. I mean, I think something really happened.
Wow.
I don't think he was being dishonest.
So how did this guy contact you? Or, I mean, how did that work out? And then he just relayed his story onto you? I mean, how did that work out?
Well, actually, believe it or not, he called me. He's not that far away from me, as in if I want to, drive down. No, I don't want to. He has a business, and it could be affected by, because it's small area, small community. Mm-hmm. And he actually just called me, and I didn't know nothing what was going on. He said, I want to tell you about something. Said it happened to me. So I've not told anybody for so many years because they told me not to tell about it. So the only person I told was my wife. And then he goes into the whole story, and I'm sitting there like, wow. And that even if I ain't mistaken, even the game warden and stuff took up snow that had blood in it and put it in a plastic bag.
So as a hunter, I mean, why did he shoot this thing? Was it out of fear? Or
out of fear.
He relates out of fear. Yeah, I mean most hunters that I know. Yeah.
How he told me he was real close to the one in the laurel thicket, and at first he thought it was a bear, but when he looked off to the left, one was in a tree, and as the one stood up in the thicket, the one on the left grunted. And he just threw the rifle up and shot. And he said he's seen it hit it in the chest. You know how when you shoot a rifle, you can see the dust fly off when it hits the target, on the animal. Mm-hmm. And he got on his four-wheeler and got out there. I've actually got it on my YouTube channel.
Yeah. We'll need to post a link to that.
And I also, I made a DVD of it, and I sell it on Amazon as well if somebody wants to do that. It's a great story, and I believe the guy. And I talked to him a few times after that. And after we did our interview, if I remember correctly, it was about 2 weeks later, he got a phone call, and they told him they knew about it, and that there would be repercussions. And since then, I've not heard anything from the guy.
That's really interesting. You know, one of the things that goes around and around in this in the not just the Bigfoot world, but the cryptid world, the paranormal world, is the involvement of the government. And I've never, well, I tell a lie. I've experienced a little bit of something possibly, but do you really believe this guy? I mean, why would, if he had shot something and was just sharing a story and he has no proof, basically? I mean, the game warden, obviously, you said maybe he saw some blood in the snow. Why would the government worry about someone sharing a story? I mean, and how many stories have you or encounters have you heard of where the government's kind of stepped in, or there's been some sort of involvement with people telling them to hush? I mean, you guys get that frequently, or?
Actually, I don't get it very often. But now, another part of that story, that as the guy's getting on his four-wheeler, the bigger creature that was in the laurel thicket picks up the one that he shot and takes it over a cliff that's straight up. And that, I mean, to me, it was just amazing to hear the guy. I mean, I thought he was going to cry on me telling the story. Right. That's how emotional he got. And but we don't get that very often.
Sorry, what was the guy's background? I mean, was he how, you know, roughly age-wise, and was he a lifelong hunter? I mean, had to experience something after so many years. You know, as a researcher, you know, I've taken a lot of reports for guys, but I've been hunting for 25, 30 years, 40 years, and never counted nothing. And bam, they had something happen that just blows their mind. Was this kind of like one of those sort of stories, or?
Well, yeah, this guy here he's actually a deer hunter, and if I was guessing, I would say he was probably in his 40s, right around 40. And what had happened, a friend of his had caught a game cam picture of a deer that had an unusual rack. It had one of the tines hanging down, like next to its eyeball.
Gotcha, yeah.
And he said, well, I've got that same deer on my game cam. And so there's nothing but a cliff there. And he said, well, there must be a cut in the cliff somewhere where that deer's coming through. So that's why he was up there looking for the cut in the cliff. And he just so happened to run on this. So it's just a great story.
No, it sounds very interesting. You know, I mean, for the guy to interview somebody that gets really emotional and where you can actually feel it, you know, that's one of those things that you have to be a complete psycho and really good at faking stuff, or honest all get out. You know, that when emotion comes into play and it affects you, you know, and it almost affects you whether it's an interview you're doing in person as an interviewee or over the phone. You know, that's a read that you can pick up on, and that to me, you know, it makes it more compelling. And you know, especially for those hunters and outdoorsmen and people hiking around that experience something that, you know, after, you know, so many years they've never had anything happen, and bam, it happens like that. It kind of blows their mind, and they're not sure if they want to hunt again or go out in the woods again.
Yeah, these guys were never afraid of anything until that one day that they saw something pretty scary. And I wonder sometimes if there's a little element of post-traumatic stress there, you know, when they're telling the story, because it does get emotional. Right.
You know, and that's a fantastic point, Dorraine, is the, you know, what you call PST or what, post-traumatic stress syndrome. You know, it happens a lot with our military. And, you know, my brother, God bless his soul, I mean, he's alive and well, but he served in Afghanistan and Iraq. You know, he's a Marine, and he's got it. I mean, he does. You know, and it's unfortunate. But I've interviewed people like what we're talking about now, where it's that complete shock that, you know, when you're out in the woods and you've been hunting your whole life, you've been out, you know, you started young or whatever, and you've been hunting out there with your dad and your grandpa and whoever, or on your own, never come across anything. You know, you feel safe. You know, you look out for bear, you know, sometimes, and cougars, and, you know, and other hunters, obviously. But when you get that encounter where you see something and it's just, you're like, it's a shock. It's a shock, and it blows your mind. and you don't forget it. And then you think about all the times you've been out in the woods where this thing has probably been out there, or maybe been out there, or you think about what could have happened while you were out there, and you made it out.
Right.
It's truly amazing.
It's like the event happened when I was 15-year-old hunting with my dad. We didn't think anything about shooting. We didn't actually see it, but I mean, it was something big and it was scaring our dogs. But we didn't think nothing about trying to shoot or find out what it was. We were just interested in just getting out of there.
Yeah.
And you hear that a lot, where people didn't, they didn't have an inclination to shoot. I was holding a camera and didn't have any inclination to take a picture.
Right.
So it messes with your head in a little sense.
It does. For a lot of people, when they go, well, why didn't you shoot it? Well, you don't know what you're shooting at, and two, you don't know if what you're shooting at, what the effect will be. You don't know.
And you're frozen there.
You're frozen.
You're frozen in time right there, and it doesn't occur to you at all.
No, and that's one of the things that irks me when I hear people say, "Oh, that can't be true." I'm a hunter. I would have shot it and killed it. But
right. Yeah.
You're not in the moment. First of all, you're not in the moment. Too, you don't. If you're a good hunter and an honest hunter, you're not going to shoot at something unless you know exactly what you're shooting at. You're just not. You're going to scope it out. You're going to look around and. And the shock value. I mean, the shock value alone. For most hunters, I think their instinct would be, let's get out of here. Let's not hang around. I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't feel comfortable.
After the initial shock.
Yeah.
So.
Well, not my dad. No, like my dad, he never did really believe in Bigfoot or anything like that. But in 2013, one crossed the road in front of him. He waited like 4 or 5 days to even tell me.
Wow.
And I think that happens a lot with other people. They see something, and I think they take a few days to process.
Yeah.
What they saw.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And whether they want to talk about it or not.
Yeah, and how many stories get lost because they're afraid to talk about it, or they don't feel they have anyone to talk about it to. So. Yeah.
No, very true. A lot of stories never get told, I believe, truly never get told. A lot of stories get told years and years later, and those are some of the most compelling stories. They're like, oh, I want the newest and freshest story out there. I want the, what's going on here, what's going on there. But a lot of times, I think some of the best stories and encounters and whatnot happen, are told later on. Someone right now would be having an encounter, and you may not hear about it until years later because they don't know what they saw. They don't want to talk about it and sound like a crazy person, and they don't know who to reach out to. It's kind of like the Finding Bigfoot show. It's a plus and it's a negative in a lot of ways. That's my feeling. It's done a lot of good. It's done a lot of negative stuff. Because a lot of people look at the show as a joke, but a lot of people are like, well, you got a lot of people reporting encounters now and talking about it. At least they're talking about it. Whether it's a joke or not, they're talking about it. So. It's just it's a catch-22.
I just hope we're improving the atmosphere for that. I mean, little by little, making it easier for people to say something.
Right. Well,
I like getting the older encounters as well, because if I can plot them in a certain area, that gives me kind of a database, a history of sightings in a certain particular area. So it gives me an idea of maybe where to look and who else might have seen something.
Yeah, Thomas. Is there a certain area? With the Crypto Crew, do you guys have a certain focus on an area, or do you guys cover? Obviously you get reports from all over the place and talk to a multitude of people. But is there a certain area you guys kind of focus in on with the Crypto Crew? How's that worked out?
Well, we've got people in like 11 different states, and we've had good research efforts in all of those, basically. I mostly concentrate here in my area in Kentucky, and then we got people. Well, we got some in Oregon, so that's a good area, and so we just kind of spread out.
Yeah, New Hampshire and
Colorado.
So me in Florida, but
well, Kentucky actually had some phenomenal, in my opinion, researchers, and has phenomenal habitat. But why do you think Kentucky may be a hotspot or an area where Sasquatch could reside in or travel through? I don't know your opinions on migration or habituation. Can you talk a little bit about the state of Kentucky in regards to reports? Can you talk about between both of you guys a little bit about your thoughts on habituation and why Sasquatch would be in Kentucky or traveling through Kentucky, depending on your idea of what Sasquatch does and is?
Well, here in Kentucky we have an abundance of deer and water. And we got other, as far as plant life and trees and things, as far as nuts. I mean, the habitat is real good for them. Our winters are normally pretty mild. And our activity in like coal mining and stripping and logging is probably at all-time lows over the last probably 10 years. So I think the less activity we have in those industries makes it more suitable for Bigfoot to come into an area, because there's just less motion going on.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as migration, I don't think we have much migration around here in this area of Kentucky, because our winters are not rough enough to warrant moving out. Plus, we have our old coal mines for them to stay in. We have quite a few natural caves in this area. It's just
Kentucky
a good environment.
Is a perfect environment.
Yeah, it sounds much like Oregon here. I mean, really, our winters are not that bad. We get snow and we get constant rain, but I'm not a big fan of migration. And I think people get really tied up with the word migration. They think thousands of miles and or hundreds of miles. For me, migration is elevation to elevation. Personally, I think a lot of things will go from one elevation, a higher elevation during a certain time of the year, to lower elevation. Basically, like what your elk and deer and your bear, everything else, every other naturally known animal does. That's what I would call migration here with Sasquatch related stuff. Is that you can travel from a high to a low, depending on your food sources.
Right. Now, we do have elk here as well, and black bear.
Mm-hmm.
So, it can sustain, this area can sustain larger animals.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like you. If they do migrate, it's just up to the next level, maybe just a little bit farther away from people. Because I know one area that I research, there's some traffic close to that area, and then in the wintertime, all the leaves come down. Well, it's kind of a little bit exposed. So if they use the word migrate, if they migrate back, they're just a little bit deeper. They're more well hid.
Yeah, that makes the most sense to me. I mean, even given a lot of the reports of the years with sightings in both Washington and Oregon, and even Northern California. I'm mainly a West Coast guy, though I do pay attention to other states, especially East Coast and the Southern states. But up here in the West Coast area, Pacific Northwest, I'm not a huge proponent of like these long migrations. I'm not. I think we don't have truly horrible winters, truly horrible summers. If you just drop down, a couple hundred feet at times, a couple thousand feet at times with elevation, you're right into the substrate. You're right into where you need to be to survive, whether you're a meat eater or a plant eater, a herbivore or omnivore or whatnot. You can survive very easily just dropping down in feet.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so most of my reports reflect that. Most of the people I've interviewed over the years, and most of the the sites out there that have evidence, encounters and reports, kind of reflect that data overall. Have you guys with the Crypto Crew? Do you guys have any opinions as to what Sasquatch? I mean, personally, I'm talking personally. I know you guys have a lot of members, 11 or so, but do you guys have any opinion as to what Sasquatch may be, and how they do their thing? I mean, where they go, how they live, or are you guys really open to a lot of, you just don't know?
You can go ahead on that, Dorraine, if you want to.
No.
Well,
that's a really big question, Shane.
Well,
yeah.
I do know that they do have family type units, because just maybe 2 summers ago I took a report from somebody I know that's actually family that was ginsenging, and he saw a mother and a younger child together. And what I found odd about that report was that the mother and the child was different color, and I thought that was kind of neat.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as what they are, it's I do not think they're Gynopithecus blackie. I think they can be threw away.
I don't think so either.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, you're kind of up in the air exactly maybe what they are.
But the stories that we hear often are that they look very human, and that kind of sits in my head. And then there are other stories that say they looked more ape-like, and I think it varies from region to region. But I think we're talking about a very, very smart ape of some sort, and I mean in the human class, somewhere between the human class and the ape class, maybe closer to human, maybe they're smarter than we are, I don't know. But, we don't know. We don't want to say.
Well, no.
We're still waiting for that.
That's an honest answer, because, I mean, say, oh, yeah, I know what they are. To me, when I hear that, I go, ugh, I cringe, because, well, how do you know? I mean, I've had a sighting. I had a sighting back in 2011, and I still don't know what the heck they are. I just know what I saw, and subsequently, over the years, I've encountered stuff, and I've not formulated a heavy opinion, not formulated ideas as to what they are or what they may possibly be. But it's not an absolute. My mind is always open to many possibilities, and as I'm sure you guys are in the same boat.
Right.
I mean, period. We just don't know. Yeah, you have to be. I'm not saying that they're primate. Maybe there's something really unique that just happened to be primate-like at times, or whatnot.
Yeah.
We just don't know. But based on
us humans have those traits sometimes.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. So, big, hard question.
No, it's probably the most difficult question that is posed to anybody that's involved with the subject matter. I mean, what do you think it is? I mean, that's a difficult one.
We can speculate all day about that.
Oh, yeah, we can speculate all day.
Well, there's some common things that we should be able to agree upon is that they are very intelligent. I mean, they manage to stay hid.
Yeah, I would say super intelligent.
Having
hidden from us for so long.
Yeah.
I've had the pleasure of being around them a few times, and it's just amazing how they're so quiet. I've been around them at times when I've seen them make noise, and I've been around them at times when I know they was there, but there was no noise associated with them walking.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just,
right.
I mean, it's kind of weird.
We'd really like the whole story.
Yeah. Well, no, it's one of the key things that people don't really talk about is the agreements with people. Everybody loves to slam people for their disagreements. But I agree. I personally feel that they are very intelligent. I mean, that to me is almost has to be a given. If not, they would have been discovered. I mean, truly discovered by now.
Right.
But I can never take away some of the experiences and recordings that I've taken and had over the years. That I assume or at least leave open that it may possibly been Sasquatch related. I've had chest slaps at 2:00 in the morning or 12:30 at night. That sound very, when you look at it on a spectrograph, these chest slaps what I assume are chest flaps. I tried
Mm-hmm.
to look at every avenue as what it could be: wing flapping, a dog shaking its fur. I looked at everything,
Right.
and the closest thing I could find is a gorilla doing a chest flap.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a male,
Exactly.
silver. So for me personally, there's a lot of very similar non-human primate things that tie in with the Sasquatch phenomena, both in behavior, with throwing rocks and beating stuff, but at the same time, very different, because what people report as how they look and how they act. It's truly, it's one of the things I love. It's such a unique phenomenon that there's this possibility, and for me, not a possibility. It's out there, but for science as a whole to discover is that we have something so unique out there in these woods, in these forests, in these areas that are not traveled, that science hasn't discovered yet. That it's just phenomenal, and I truly feel, and I'm blessed. Trust me, I love it that I work with certain people. I feel like a bit of an Indiana Jones sometimes out there trying to discover something that maybe in my lifetime never will be discovered, but the pursuit of it is just so awesome and fun. And yeah, I mean, do you guys feel the same way, or am I just blowing steam here?
Well, here's something to think about in that respect. Now,
yeah,
I see people doing this all the time. They're trying to equate a Sasquatch. They're trying to find traits in it that resemble something they're familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what humans do. We're always looking for the familiar. Well, what if we're dealing with something totally different? What if they are so smart because they're unique on the planet? Is there any reason why they can't be unique, or if they can't have unique skills, abilities? I mean...
And I love that. No,
I mean,
well said.
Do we need to go a totally different direction and just kind of let our imaginations go a little crazy for a while in order to figure some new things out? I mean, that's what I'm always trying to put forth.
No, that's fantastic. A lot of times, not all times, I would say the vast majority of times, we think we know what we're looking for. I mean, we're out in the woods or we're out in the forest, and we think we know what we're looking for, and we're trying to be very scientific about it, very absolute about it. But I mean, really, with looking for something or dealing with something unknown, what are you looking for? I mean, you have no idea, truly. You really have no idea.
Maybe it's like nothing we know.
Exactly.
Maybe
and I've always assumed that.
Totally different.
I always leave that option open. I mean, not even an option. That's basically when I go in the woods, I go, I just, I try to. I'm human. So, I got the old Bigfoot thing on my brain, and I'm thinking, this is what I need to be looking for. But quite wrongly, I think, is that when you're going out there and trying to discover something or do your thing, you need to kind of wipe that whole thing clean and go, okay, I don't know what I'm looking for. Let me just experience the woods. All bets are off. Let's just, the only thing I would say to that is that for a lot of people, and myself included, I have had a sighting, and there were things included that happened during that sighting. And so I do try to envelop those things into my research a little bit without saying, it could be just one extraordinary moment, and that's not their everyday life or what they do as a whole. Yeah, I just don't know.
Right.
I'm not an expert. There's no experts in this field. It's just going, okay, well, this happened. Let me not forget about it and envelop that into my research. And if it works out, cool. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm very open. But that's a great point, Dorraine. I mean, great point is that a lot of people try to put everything in the box as to what we know. And we're
humans. We do that automatically. Our brain is programmed that way, to look for the familiar in everything we see. Well, what if that's the wrong thing to do? What if we need to retrain our brains in order to be more open to different possibilities? I mean, that's just me.
Yeah. I'm not opposed to that idea. I try to ground myself and stay within reason. Very open to a lot of things if substantiated by really hardcore
Evidence.
facts or
Yeah.
evidence. Yeah,
Evidence.
perfect. Evidence.
Yeah.
Evidence. I mean, that's what it boils down to, right, Tom? I mean, that's what it boils down to is evidence. You know, I could tell you a fantastic story, and you'd be like, whoa, that's awesome. That's really intriguing. And then you guess what? Hang up the phone and file that one away. It doesn't mean anything. How important is evidence? I mean, really, it's important, right?
Yes, evidence is important. Getting people to accept the evidence is a totally different story.
Yeah. There seems to be different perceptions of evidence. So I don't know. How do you call it evidence if 50% of the people don't accept it at all, and the others think it's real solid truth? And, I mean, what are you supposed to do about that?
Well, for example, you take like tree breaks.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people won't accept tree breaks as evidence. They say, well, you didn't see the Bigfoot break it. But I have found tree breaks with large foot tracks in the middle of the forest right up under it. It's pretty easy to put the two together and say, well, this is what's broke this. It wasn't a gray squirrel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had I'm involved with the Limb Project as well as Gunnar Monson, my co-host here on the show, and Derek Randalls had been given some evidence and seen the evidence of these tree breaks around possible ground nesting sites, and quite extraordinary, really. But everything was broken and snapped off. Since we're on the topic, and I've come across in my field research certain breaks that were unexplainable. Now, obviously, I didn't see a Sasquatch do it. Very rare. I mean, actually, I don't think I've ever come across a tree break where I've seen an impression on the ground, to be honest with you. But there are a ton of reports and photos out there where someone's, come across a tree break or a branch snap with an impression below it. I'm on board with that. It's a possibility. I've never seen a Sasquatch do it, but I never close out it. I never rule out the thought that it's a possibility, especially with some of the evidence I've seen or possible evidence I've seen over the years. It makes a lot of sense to me because even non-human primates, gorillas and whatnot do that sort of stuff. We as humans do that sort of stuff.
We used to do it a lot when we was coon hunting. If we had to separate, and we would break a branch pointing a certain direction and say, well, I'll be, move this way. We've done it a lot.
Yeah.
But we didn't do them 10 foot tall, 10 foot up on a tree neither.
Didn't break off full-grown trees.
No.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, some of these breaks, even some of the breaks that I've come across, I mean, I'm not talking about snowfall or anything else. I mean, in an area where in an area, I've come across some extraordinary breaks, very fresh, and with disturbance on the ground, and not an impression, I would say, but disturbance that are just phenomenal. That lead me to question, like, what the frick did this? It doesn't make any sense. And I got a lot of reports like that, but. It's one of those things where you file it away, and you take notes, and you take pictures and all that, and you file away. Then though, what do you do with it? Well, no, you file it. You guys have gotten a ton of reports, I'm sure, similar, where people are coming across this stuff. Some of it can be explained, some of it can't.
Mm-hmm.
Down the road here, Thomas and Dorraine, I know you guys have taken a lot of reports in, but do you want Sasquatch? We're on the subject of Sasquatch, but do you want Sasquatch to be discovered, or do you want it to remain a mystery? Personally, I'd love for it to be discovered. I think it needs to be proven, at least. I think it's been discovered. I think it needs to be proven.
Yeah, it's kind of a little bit of a touchy subject because, on one hand, I would like to prove that they're real, but on the other hand, I want them to be left alone. But then on another hand, I'm thinking they can take care of themselves. They've been doing it all this time. They really don't need to worry about us. But I don't know, what if there's some secret formula that we figure out for finding them and we don't leave them alone? I mean, I have mixed feelings about this. I've thought about it a lot, and I have very mixed feelings about it. They're very smart. I think they can take care of themselves, but humans have a way of messing up the environment for other living things, and that would be my biggest concern, I suppose. So, I don't know.
Well, for me, I always like to ask this question. Who are we proving it to?
Right.
I think the higher up in government, I think that actually the government knows about them. So
we feel pretty strongly about that.
Who are we proving it to? Are we proving it to people who's closed-minded and wouldn't consider it anyways?
I think that's the case with a lot of researchers. They get tired of skeptics and they just want to prove they're real once and for all. And just because they're sick of being ridiculed, and there's a lot of that, I think, too.
I got over that a long time ago. But let me ask you this, and I've been ridiculed both with my friends and my family. Doesn't matter. They're out there. But let me ask you this. Why would the government's involvement or knowledge of these subjects matter? I mean, if the government knows, or the military, whatever, higher powers know about this, what does it matter? That's a huge question in my mind when I talk to people when they say that the military or the government knows about this. Do they care, or they don't care, or is there ulterior motives? I mean, what's going on?
Well, that's a good question. See, that's something we really don't know. Would it be hurtful for the logging industry? Probably so. Would it be hurtful for recreation, camping and hiking and things like that? Probably so. But why does our government do anything that it does? Is a mystery.
Well, okay. What does our government know about them? Do they know a lot of things that we don't know? Is there some profound truth that we are not being let in on, that they already know, that makes them believe that this really needs to be kept secret and hidden from the public? I mean, a lot of questions. So
no, it's a lot. I have the same questions. I really do. I'm not there yet with I would find it hard to believe that some foreign government didn't know that these things were out there. I mean, that's just me personally. I mean, with the amount of operations they do and their surveillance and all that, it would be really hard for me to believe they don't. Maybe they don't, and maybe people are just imagining stuff, and that's a possibility. A few years back, I did experience a little bit of some weirdness myself, but I couldn't claim it was military involved because I wasn't harmed or contacted. I just happened to see something that was really odd. But so out, I mean, do you guys believe that possibly Sasquatch needs to be protected? I'm very open to this. We talk about how they're doing fine on their own, and for those that believe in Sasquatch to be real 100%, I know we got listeners going, well, you haven't proven them exist. Well, obviously. But for those that have seen Sasquatch and know them to exist, or at least believe them exist, it makes sense to me that with the expansion of human population, with forest fires and everything else going on, that they would need eventually, if not now, some sort of protection. I mean, it only stands to reason. I look at Borneo and some of these other, countries around the world and whatnot that have these huge, vast forest fires. I'm a huge fan of orangutans. I love orangutans. One of my favorite primates. And what they're going, the forest on fire, they're being poached, and a lot more horrible things going on there. They need protection.
Yeah.
And they're known. A lot of animals out there in species that are going extinct daily that are not known, that we will never know. And so I always got to refer back to Sasquatch, which I know exist. I don't know what they are, but I got to wonder, do they need protection? I mean, people go, oh, no, they're doing fine on their own. Well, how do you know that? I mean, I can't say. Maybe they are. Maybe they're not. It's a tough question. Well, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, we need to know more, for one thing. We need to know more about them, but they are definitely hiding better than orangutans are. So, I mean, how do we decide what kind of help they need, if anything, if they need protection?
Right.
They're doing very well right now on their own, as far as we know, but, I mean, we don't really know that much.
Right. It's almost a stupid question. I realize that, because a lot of people are like, well,
it's hard to get a stupid answer together too. I mean,
well,
yeah.
it would probably be easier to pass some kind of law that protected rare and unknown species or something like that than be specific to, say, Sasquatch. But,
that's very well said, Mark. Yeah.
But the thing is, it's kind of like gun control. You're not going to stop the violence. If somebody wants to kill one, they're going to.
Right.
You know, we've had laws about killing bald eagles and stuff for years, but yet we almost wiped them out. So, you know. But it would be nice to have something out there.
You know,
just
even
to know it's there.
Yeah, even if it's just and you know, it's kind of hard and broad to do, but an unknown, you know, sort of agreement to protect things that are, it's really hard to do. I mean, I don't know how you describe that. Unknown.
It would be hard to write it down. I mean, hard to put it into words.
Yeah, illegal to kill anything that was rare or undiscovered.
Yeah, undiscovered.
You can't shoot. You can't kill something that's so like unicorns. I mean, what do we include?
Yeah,
and what you don't
very
include?
vague.
Yeah, it's a tough subject matter.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. You know, there's certain counties, you know, like Skamania up in Washington, that you can't shoot a Sasquatch. But I mean, how could they really protect that wall? I mean, really. I mean, when it comes down to it, it's.
But if someone did, they would get in trouble for it, though. You know.
No doubt.
Yeah, I mean,
that would be the thing.
Well,
it's the only comfort you have.
Yeah.
So wow.
Just hard. That's a hard topic, I guess.
Yeah, it's a very hard topic.
It was easy to kill them, then we wouldn't be having the conversation about whether or not they exist. So I'm not really concerned about them being necessarily threatened by their existence being confirmed. But it's funny that people argue, well, we need to protect their environment. Well, we should. There's already known animals that we should be protecting the same environment for. So another species in that environment, would it close down logging? I mean, that's a whole another can of worms.
Yeah.
So, we're here in Oregon where we had the spotted owl thing, not that long ago, where and it passed with time. They found that they were more.
We had the Indiana bat here, and you had to stop logging for so long, till they moved out of the area.
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean, protection only is involved if it's a known thing. I mean, unfortunately, and that's the way science works. With in regards to some of the, I mean, where do you see the subject matter going? I mean, with researchers, I mean, what is a researcher to you or enthusiast? And is there an importance there, or is it just like, whatever, everybody's a researcher? What is the importance there? I mean, is there? I mean, I feel there is.
Well, there is for me. I mean, just the personal knowledge gain is worth it for me.
Yeah, definitely.
And if I can share with people, people
I don't really
like
care anymore if other people think it's real or not.
I
it
don't
would be
have
nice
that luxury.
if everybody was on board.
I don't have that luxury to say, well, I don't know if they're real or not. I know they are, so.
Right. Yeah. I'm in the same boat, Thomas. I'm in the same boat. I know they're real, and but I do value other people's opinions on their experiences and whatnot. And I do value, trust me, I do value skeptics' opinions. I get many of my own family. They go, well, are you sure you were, what you saw, what you experienced? Well, yeah, I get it. And I value their opinions. At the same time, what you saw, what you experience, and then you move on from there. You're in a different sort of spectrum, and your research, because trust me, before my sighting, I was a researcher, or enthusiast, investigator, whatever you want to call me. I was very much involved with the subject matter. But after having confirmation, it moved my opinion and ante up tons. But does that matter to science or the general public? No. Do I care? Well, I'll be honest with you. I do care a little bit. I do. Because I do want this subject matter to move forward. I do want it to be proven. Am I trying to prove it to them? No. I enjoy, I work with, Gunnar and I work with the Olymp Project. We're a part of the Tillamook group. We enjoy the evidence that we collect, the possible evidence we collect and whatnot. But, with the crypto crew, what are your ultimate goals with the crypto crew? Are you guys just collector of data? I mean, obviously, Thomas, like you said before, you don't really, you're not out there to prove anything, and, who are you proving it to? I get that, and I love it, and I agree. But with all your endeavors and everything else, everything you guys publish and put out there, I mean, what are your ultimate goals?
For my personal goal, I just want to keep doing what I'm doing, keep gathering the data, the evidence, keep sharing it with other people, and also getting other researchers' data. And it's like a big puzzle, and we're just putting little pieces together, and it's going to take some time. If something major don't happen, it's going to take some time.
Yeah, the key is patience, and don't get too worked up about it. Just do your thing the way you feel you need to do it, and don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Just do the work the way you see fit, and everybody's got a different idea of how research should be done. And, everybody criticizes the way everybody else does their research. There's a lot of that too, but just, I say don't listen to the critics. Just do what you've been doing if you think it works for you, and see what information you can collect, and just keep doing it. And like Tom says, just little pieces to the puzzle all the time. Just, needle in a haystack, of course, but just keep picking at it.
Dorraine, we had a fascinating conversation. At least I found it fascinating and very intriguing and informative a few weeks back before this show. And you were talking about, some of, I was asking you questions, and like we're doing a show. And some of my questions posed was, how much should science be involved, what are their opinions and ideas, what are they doing wrong or right? I really enjoyed that conversation. It really was fascinating. And you're a very intelligent person, and you have great ideas and just knowledge on the subject matter. And so, I got to ask you, I would love for science to be involved in the subject matter more so than it is now. We have individuals. We have Brenner Nagel, Mindzinski, John Mindzinski, John Bindernagel. We have Jeffrey Meldrum. We have certain individuals involved in academia, involved in the subject matter, that are very intrigued by it. Some of them, like John Mindzinski, who had an encounter, something you cannot explain, who's a wildlife biologist. Back in the 70s, he had this encounter, and he could not explain it. He's been involved ever since. Not proven anything. I mean, not proven Sasquatch to be out there.
Right.
Unfortunately, Bindernagel, same boat. Meldrum. The list goes on with those with credentials that science looked at. You had some interesting insights, or at least ideas about this, or thoughts. I should say thoughts is the best word to put out there. In regards to science involved with this subject matter, what are your opinions on this? I mean, how important? I brought this into the forefront of the show. How important is it for science to be involved with this? And I mean, what are they missing out on? Or not missing out on? I mean, where are we at today? seems to be a sort of thing where it keeps circulating where, okay, where's science, no science, where's science, where's no science. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, okay, this is easy for me to get in trouble with scientists, but I usually say it anyway. Scientists are trained to think in a certain way. They're trained to follow the evidence where it leads. Okay, that's fine. That's good. That's what we expect of them. That's what we need from them. But I think that your average researcher with no real serious scientific background has something to offer that's unique and very, very important to the research, and that is a different way of thinking. They're not tied down by their education. I always have a trouble saying this without getting in trouble, like I said before, but I think sometimes the people with less information in their head are sometimes better able to get down to the raw facts of the matter. They're not hindered by any way of thinking. They can kind of twist their mind around what they're seeing and what they're finding, and I think in many ways they are better able to do really good research because they have no preconceived ideas about how it should be done. They're out there actually looking at it. They're the ones, they're, like you say, the boots on the ground, hiking boots on the ground. They're the ones out there doing it, seeing what's really there, doing the actual grunt work that it takes. And I think that they have a lot to offer that science, I don't know that they don't acknowledge it, but science is not quite paying enough attention to it yet. And I think, there have been a lot of researchers in other fields. We talked about Jane Goodall and, not Jane Goodall.
Yeah, and Diane Fossey. Yeah.
Diane Fossey, thank you. I couldn't think of her name. But, who were not really scientists to start with. Yeah. But did some really good research. They were willing to do the work. I mean, the really serious work, get down in the trenches and actually do it. And I think that is very important. I think that science is very important also, but I think there is, a lot of work to be done that's not going to be done by scientists down the road. I think it's going to be the average researchers that are just doing their thing in the best way they know how to do it. So, does that make sense? Yeah,
makes perfect sense. And really, really have to agree with you with this subject matter. I think it goes with all of this cryptid-related stuff is that science is off to the side, unfortunately. I wish it was there, right there, holding hands with me and everybody else, but they're off to the side, and basically they're looking for a slab. I mean, they're looking for something dropped right in front of them and go, bam, there you go. Jane Goodall, a perfect example, and I use it a lot of times on the show, as a citizen scientist, not somebody with credentials of any sort, other than her association with certain people, went out to the wood, the field, and discovered amazing things with chimpanzees. They ate meat and they hunted and blah, blah, blah. I mean, look it up. You can figure it out. And amazing stuff that was eventually accepted, and she eventually was, given credentials. I mean, she was an amazing woman with drive and passion. And
that's the person we need to look at and remember and use that as our example. And, whenever we're feeling a little bit down about what we're doing and how we're not really accomplishing anything, just remember things like that and people like that and know that it does mean something. It just sometimes takes a little while. And
let me ask you this. Would Jane Goodall, if she had, back in the day, had Facebook access and had access to, social media, would she be posting her stuff everywhere? Or would she be the type that, yeah. No.
What?
I don't think so.
Jane Goodall would be posting every day on Facebook?
Nope. Sorry. I don't think so. I think she would be too busy.
No, she'd be too busy doing what she does well.
Too. Right, doing research.
I don't think she'd be out in the woods with a laptop. No, not even a smartphone. No. Honestly, I don't.
And you, both of you guys mentioned earlier, is to pay attention to those that are quiet. That are not posting. I mean, truly, if you're involved in something that you feel that is extraordinary and you feel really confident about the subject matter and the research behind it, I mean, are you going to be posting updates and whatnot? No, you are loving where you're at. You're going, wow, this is amazing. Let me continue on with this. In fact, social media will probably play no part in anything you do. I mean, that's the honest truth.
Yep, correct. That is my opinion.
Yeah.
So.
And I get a lot of flack like, oh, you're always talking about Jane Goodall and Diane Fossey and whatnot. But I love those women because of what they did. And yes,
it's relevant.
It's relevant. Even if you think Sasquatch is not a primate or primate related or non-human primate or whatever, it doesn't matter. The thing is, bottom line is, the research of the subject is not promoted. You just didn't see. I guarantee, like we were just talking about, Diane Fossey and whatnot, they're not going to be posting every 5 minutes or every couple of days what their findings are or what their beliefs are. They're not. They're so involved in what they're doing. They're like, wow, this is amazing. This is awesome. Let me soak this in. Let me document, and let me repeat my documents. Let me repeat it. Not like, okay, this happened one time. This is factual. No, it's nothing about factual. I mean, everything's about factual, but it's not about, okay, it happened one time, so it must be a must. No. Those gals and whatnot were so involved with the factual stuff and enjoying their environment, and I'm not saying Sasquatch is a primate. My belief is that it's some sort of primate, but I could be wrong. But the point is,
that's your
evidence.
Theory.
That's my theory, correct?
Yes.
But
I did want to say one more thing about science too.
Go ahead. Yeah, please do. Spit it.
I think that a lot of researchers really take a lot of stock in science, and they really are worried about gaining the respect of the scientific community, and I think that's important. But I don't think that's the big part of the big picture. I think if you're doing good research, you're doing your thing the best way you can, you're doing a good job of it, you're being thorough, and you're not a scientist, I think you're doing a service that's important, and stop worrying so much about scientists and what they might think about it. Just do your thing, collect your information, keep doing it, keep doing a good job of it, and I think it's all going to come out in the end, like it has for so many other people, like you say, Diane Fossey. So I think that people worry a lot that people making outrageous claims is going to undermine their trying to influence the scientific community about the existence of Sasquatch. And that may be true to a certain degree, but I think we just need to not worry about ridiculous claims that are being made and just do our research, do our thing, do a good job of it, and not so worry so much about science at this time. Just do your thing. That's all. I think that's what Diane Fossey did. So that's what you have to do. It's not science plays an important role, and having them acknowledge it is important, but baby steps. We have to take baby steps to get there. And I know people get impatient. You know, they want things to be done. They want to know that what they're doing really, really matters, and they want to know it in their lifetime.
Right.
But am I making sense?
Oh, you're making perfect sense. And absolutely. And
well, I can boil it down and even a little more simpler for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go.
While science and knowledge is good, nothing can replace the experience of being out there.
Right.
Science and knowledge is great, but I'll take the experience of actually seeing a Sasquatch over what some dude in a lab coat's going to tell me.
You have to actually go outside to see them. You can't see them from a desk or a computer.
They're wanting the biscuit without making the bread.
Yeah.
Well, I think
keep doing your work.
Reward without doing any cooking.
Right.
I think the scientific process is more important than science itself. Is collecting the data and vetting the data, and because we can only control what we can control, and science at this point, for the vast majority of the world of science, is not interested in the subject, and we can't, you can lead them to water, but they're just going to laugh.
Correct. Now, there is a few that like Bindernagel. I really like him.
Yeah.
And I like Jeff Meldrum, and there's some that's actually got a good, honest interest in it, but there's some that wouldn't give it the time of day.
Mm-hmm. A lot.
But even those gentlemen, if we, they probably heard all the anecdotal stories that they ever need to hear, and are interested in seeing hard evidence. So.
Yeah.
Well,
hard
that's
evidence.
true. But for a lot of times it takes you got to actually see it for yourself. I know people who are not scientists, just normal people who would never believe in Bigfoot until they seen one.
Right.
It don't matter what you gave them.
I'm only at 98.5% because I haven't seen one, and so I leave about 1.5% there that everybody is either misidentified. Every report is misidentified.
Everybody's a liar.
Everybody is misidentified or fabricated their experience, and that just seems like such a unlikely answer to what everybody reports.
A worldwide conspiracy.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and I've heard so many people. I've talked to so many people telling me similar stories. Who are from different parts of the world, have no connection to each other, and they're telling me the same strange little stories, and they don't know each other. They have no reason to have any contact with each other. So, we have to kind of look at that and think, maybe we need to pay more attention to this. So that's another thing, too.
I mean, have you guys found similarities in some of these reports that you guys have been have been shared with you? I mean, are you guys building any patterns, or even in Kentucky or wherever? I mean, you guys build any patterns or anything that stands out to you with these reports?
There's a lot of similarities in size, shape, color, possible behavior, track sizes. I mean, there's a lot of things that just all falls right together. Sounds, rock throwing. I mean, you just go on and on of things that's told repeatedly, all over the United States, Canada, just different areas.
Even Australian yowies and completely different continents talking about similar behaviors. So it's good to talk to people from all over the world and get their insights and just find out how similar they really are. Lots of differences, varying, by region, of course, but lots and lots of similarities too. So.
And that's what makes it easier to pick out the ones that are maybe dishonest or
or
maybe adding a little bit to the story. I mean, if it don't kind of fit into things you've heard other people talk about, it seems out of sorts.
Right. It helps that we've heard a lot of stories.
Yeah, I would imagine with some of these stories that there's been a lot of similarities, and then, of course, you get those rare occurrences or maybe non-rare occurrences where these stories are really outlandish. But, I mean, what are you guys' thoughts on, I'm sure you're very much aware of David Paulides and his books, The Missing 411. I mean, how many reports have you guys taken in that sound familiar to some of these missing, people reports that David Paulides, has in his book? Do you guys buy into that, or Sasquatch these perfect, forest people and friends? Do you think they have a tendency to be evil or not? I mean, what's going on?
Well, I think they're much like us. I mean, we have people that are ill-tempered and have bad temperament in our society. I'm sure they have
mentally ill.
Maybe so. I'm sure they have their. I mean, I think they're capable of aggressive behavior. As far as the missing 411 books, I think there's some stretching going on there about some of the cases. If you're saying that Bigfoot took them all, I think accidents or other predators are the most likely cause, which I know David don't come out and say Bigfoot in his books. But is it possible that Bigfoot could take a child? Possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah. No, I mean, everything's possible. I mean, nothing can be left off the table. For me, like I said, I think Thomas would agree with this. I mean, we know these things are out there. What they are, we don't know. But are they capable of doing certain things? Sure. Are humans, bears and cougars, everything's capable of doing something of a malicious nature that we assume is malicious. Right. I think it's ridiculous to think that Sasquatch or Bigfoot are this perfect entity, perfect being that they don't cause any harm or any don't have any malicious intent. I think it's ridiculous. Yeah.
Well, I think they're capable of being stressed like any other creature, and any creature that's stressed might do anything for survival or anything like that. So, I mean, it's something that we have to think about.
Involved in this sort of thought and with the cryptids one. Yeah, it has to be in the back of your mind, or at least as an opportunity, something you think about. You can't roll it out. You just can't, in my opinion.
We can't throw out anything. We have to take it all in.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times I'm out in the woods by myself. I may be 15, 20 miles back in the woods by myself. And I've always told my family, if something happens to me and you can't find me, if you can find my cameras, get the SD cards. Something to be on. Something to be on them.
Yeah.
And so you never know whether it be a bear or we do have cougars in this area now. So you never know what might happen.
Right. You don't know if it could be another human that took you out if you just fear, or just something naturally happened. You fall off a cliff. You just don't know.
That's right.
Yeah.
You never know.
That's right.
Yeah. There's a lot of possibilities out there, and a lot of people fall into this category. And the Missing 411 books are fascinating to me for multiple reasons. A lot of them I think can be explained, and a lot of them can't be.
Right.
A lot of people ask me, is Sasquatch capable of this? Well, I don't know. I don't know what Sasquatch is capable of. But can I rule it out? No. So I always had that openness. I know what humans are capable of. I know what bears and cougars are capable of. I know what people in general, when out in the woods, are capable of. So, Sasquatch, I don't. It's not mind-boggling for me to assume that they are capable of doing something in the wrong. If you're in the wrong place, at the wrong time, sure. But have I seen it? No. So I can't prove anything. just awesome ideas at the end of the day.
Well, the one story of Dennis Martin, I done hit from over in Smoky Mountains. I didn't know at the time that David covered it in his book, because I've never read his books, just what I've seen people say about it on the internet and things. But the Dennis Martin case, I thought, stood a good chance of being a Sasquatch because of what was, what people seen in the woods and things like that. But you don't. In the end, you don't really know because they never found. Never found.
Yeah.
They found some remains. Years later, they found some remains, but a lot of times that don't tell us much. Sometimes. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you guys this, and I'll start with Thomas here. What is the I would assume you consider yourself a bit of a researcher, or not just a bit, but a big time researcher. I mean, you do a lot of research on the field, and you collect a lot of counter reports. What is the say you kind of recollected on when you were a kid? I think 15 years old, your experience. What is something else you've experienced out in the woods that may be really intriguing or scary? And then, Dorraine, I'm going to ask you the same question, so be prepared.
Okay.
Well, there's so much to choose from.
I figured. Well, share a couple if you feel like it.
Probably the most unusual thing that I had happen was I was investigating actually the sighting that my dad had. And it was it had been about, 7 or 8 days, maybe 10 after the actual sighting. I found a trackway. It had like 30-plus tracks in it, multiple breaks. But I set up some game cameras in there. And I heard what I can only describe as speech. But it was just far enough out of my earshot that I couldn't make out any words, which I probably couldn't, even if it had been close, I probably couldn't have.
Mm-hmm.
And there was nobody there other than me, and I'm assuming that it was the Bigfoot. And it just sounded like speech.
And we've heard other stories.
That's probably
similar
the weirdest thing.
Mm-hmm.
Tom,
I've heard other people make the same claims.
And did you record those
Actually,
audio?
I didn't record. I didn't get to record that. I recorded my reaction after because I was in the process of installing a game camera. And this thing was about no more than 30 yards from me. And it was in an area where there was quite a few laurels and some pine trees. And, of course, I couldn't see it. When I first heard it, I thought, well, somebody's coming. I thought it was my mom or dad coming because my dad, I thought it was my dad because he knew where I was at. But it wasn't him because when I got home, they was gone, and there was nobody else around. And it was just a weird thing, and it took a lot of effort to go ahead and put up the rest of my game cameras. And that's probably the weirdest thing I've had happen. But as far as breaks and tracks and things like that, I found bunches of those. Yeah.
Not going to blow us out of the water with those. But what about you, Dorraine? Does anything stand out to you with some of the reports you've taken or encounters you've had? Possible encounters?
Well, yeah, a couple summers ago, I was out in an area that I had decided might be a good place to do some research. But I was kind of out there a little bit here and a little bit there, trying to decide if it was really worth my time. And I went out there very early one morning. This was maybe 5:30, before it was daylight. And I decided which trail I was going to go down. It was a canyon trail where I would have to go. There were actually some steps that would take me down to the area I wanted to go. It steps down into the canyon, and there were kind of steep steps. But anyway, I stepped out of my truck, and it's so quiet. I mean, there's not a sound. The sun is just starting to come up a little bit, and there's not a sound of anything. Not a bird, nothing. And I thought that was kind of odd, but I got out and I decided to go down the trail I'd planned on. And I was just stepping on the trail, and all of a sudden I heard deer circling around up and down the hill, and they were going in circles. And I couldn't figure out what they were running from. But it got quiet for a minute. And I started walking down the trail thinking, well, everything's fine, although I knew kind of in the back of my mind that everything was a little weird.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm walking down the trail, and I get to the edge where these old wooden steps are, and to go into the canyon, and I start down the steps, and all of a sudden I hear this crashing noise, like tree against tree. It was a loud wood knock, like heavy wood against heavy wood. But anyway, all of a sudden the deer started running around on the hills again. And I stopped, and I decided that I had vertigo, and I was not going to go down the steps. I thought, this is a very bad idea. I've never had vertigo in my life, but that's what happened to me when I stepped down on that step, like I had done many times before. And I decided this was a bad idea. But here I am. I could hear these deer running around in circles in the woods, and these are thick woods. And I'm wondering, what the heck's going on? So I step back up to the top step, and I look around. And all of a sudden, it's quiet again. And I'm looking around, and the energy in the air was just very weird to me. So I'm looking, and I'm looking to see if I can see anything. And I am thinking about Sasquatch at the time. I'm looking around to see if I can actually see something, but I can't. All of a sudden, a stick whizzes past one side of my head, just barely missing me. I mean, I could hear the whistle in my ear. And, okay, I'm thinking, that was interesting. You know, could have dropped off a tree, anything. Anyway, so I stood there looking and still couldn't see anything. All of a sudden, another stick whizzes past the other side of my head. And by then, even though I don't see anything, I'm thinking, you know what, I think I need to leave. I'm just getting this weird feeling that I just need to go. So I headed back up the trail. And as I'm heading back up the trail, I heard this crashing noise again, wood against wood. And then all of a sudden, these deer are running around. I can hear them. I can't really see them. I can see movement, but I can't see them. And I'm thinking, I really need to get out of here now. And as I'm walking up the trail, I heard a noise to my right. I turned to my right, and I put my hands, both of my hands out in front of me, and one fawn's nose hit each one of my hands. I mean, they were running like the wind, and they both ran. One of them ran into each hand. There were twins. They weren't very big. They were spotted still. And as soon as they hit mine, they looked at me, and the one ran up the hill, the other ran down the hill, but neither one of them ran back to the place they came from. And they didn't waste any time going. And that's when I thought, I got to get out of here. And I went back to the truck. I sat there for a few minutes, and I finally started up, and I just drove home. And on my way, I'm like, oh, my gosh, I wonder what just happened to me. And the more I thought about it and the more I thought about it, I think I interrupted a hunt, and it was probably best that I left. But and I can't prove it, can't prove a thing.
Right.
But the circumstances were very, very odd. And a lot of deer in that area, a lot of water, places to hide. It was just a perfect spot for them to be.
Right.
And you talk about migration. They could migrate to a different place to do their hunts, you know, every day or however often they do it. And then they had perfect access to a very remote area, just a mile or so down the river, that they could have hidden very well.
Right.
And anyway, I think something happened to me, and that was my big moment. I never did see a thing except deer, and the deer were acting very, very, very strangely.
Yeah.
They could have been running from something else, but something else does not throw things at me. And, something could have fallen off the trees, but the chances of them, whizzing past my head, one on one side and one on the other, was a little far-fetched.
The timing sounds
I had to
suspect.
think, something happened.
Something happened. The timing sounds suspect, and the amount of reports out there, and I'm sure you've taken in similar reports of a similar nature, kind of stand out in your head. You're like, oh, this is, the
vertigo was interesting, too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why in the world did I have vertigo? Before I even stepped down on the step, I never have that problem.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I'm kind of feeling dizzy and kind of out of sorts for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to stop and, get my bearings, and that's when all this happened. So that was my weird moment. Take it for what it's worth.
Well, very honest about it, and it could have been a multitude of anything, to be honest with you. And you're not claiming it to be Sasquatch related, but very intriguing, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I personally have never experienced the vertigo thing. What I've experienced out in the woods, as many hunters will claim, is that you cross a point where you just feel like, ooh, I shouldn't go here, or I shouldn't. I mean, not even just hunters, but campers or hikers.
Mm-hmm.
They cross a point where they're, I don't feel comfortable here, or I shouldn't pass, or something's going on, and I'm going to turn around.
Weird feeling.
Have I experienced that? Yes, a weird feeling. I've experienced that. Is it all in your head?
I've had that happen.
Perhaps.
I've had that happen several times as well.
Oh, yeah.
But usually I keep on going just to see what it is.
He's a true researcher.
He's that or just crazy or not bad.
I was a female alone in the woods, so I left.
I know I got clean underwear at home.
Exactly.
Well, I have experienced that, and I think a lot of people have. It's not unique to anything I do. It's just
right.
And perhaps you're wrong at times, but you don't even have to be in the woods or whatnot. You just be in a certain. I've experienced this in a shopping mall. We're like, what the hell's up? You just get that feeling. You're like, damn it, I don't know what's going on here, but something's up. My wife. People in general get this sixth feeling or the sixth sense, and they just like,
Did you say in a shopping mall? You've had that feeling in the shopping mall?
Yeah, well, maybe. I think it's just me. I hate shopping in general, so as soon as I walk into a shopping mall, I get that sense. It just happens right off the bat.
I understand, Shane.
Around Christmas in the shopping mall, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah, it happens. I don't even have to leave the house, and I get it. I'm like, let's go to the mall. Oh, bam, it's.
Can't do it.
Well, you know what, guys? I gotta ask you. Love the Crypto Crew. Where do you see this field going? Where do you see the with specifically the Sasquatch Bigfoot field? Where do you see it going? Are we making progress? Are we falling behind? And then ask you this because you guys are involved with it daily, and you experience it daily, and you're true researchers and historians and the whole nine. But are we making any progress, or are we? It's just going nowhere. What's up?
We are making progress.
Good.
However, slow.
Slow but sure.
Slow. Catch up slow.
Yeah.
But yes, we are. I don't think people should get discouraged because, we haven't had these major breakthroughs. Just keep doing what you're doing. Like I always said, I think that we are getting somewhere. More people believe. I mean, I can talk to more people on the street about the subject, and they're like, "Oh, that's really cool. That's what you do? That's amazing."
Yeah.
You know, they either think you're nuts or they think you're really cool. And kids especially are, you know, little lumps of clay. They want to believe it. They eat this stuff up. So the next generation's going to be a lot better for us, I think. So that's
I think part of that can be attributed to shows like Finding Bigfoot. I think Finding Bigfoot, well, it is what it is. It's entertainment, but it is.
And we'd have to look at it that way.
Right. It's funny that people get upset about it because it's like, well, that's not, but it's a great show introduction to Bigfoot and for kids to watch. And if you know people that are on the show, or it's fun to watch your friends on TV. But if you talk to any of the cast of Finding Bigfoot, they admit, that's not Bigfooting per se. They don't go out in the woods. That's not how they actually go out and research.
Right.
Both Cliff and Bobo are active field researchers. I don't know a lot. Like that Matt Moneymaker actually was out in the field other than on the show. And Renee's the token skeptic, but it's great for introducing kids and I think opening up the subject to a broader audience and allowing some people that have had experiences to come forward because hey, there's a show on TV about it, so I can go talk to somebody about it. I know that I've had that.
I think that's the biggest point. I think that's the biggest point. It's helped people come forward and tell what they saw.
Right. I mean, they see these, they see the town halls on TV, and that, hey, other people are talking about it. Nobody wants to be the first one to go, So, yeah, cool. So.
Yep. It opens a door.
Yep. And we are making progress, slowly but surely. So.
Yep. Catch it slow. But we are. So nobody should get discouraged about what they're doing. Just keep doing it.
Sometimes it feels like
getting with good people.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like one step forward and two steps back, but
oh yeah. Very true.
Good people. Try to be around good researchers and people that you can trust.
Right.
Stay away from those that are, just trying to get attention. You don't want to be around those folks.
We try to keep it real. We do agree on this, that we are not going to get wrapped up in the hype. We're not going to make up stories. We're not going to buy into stories that are so fantastic just because we need hits on the website or, likes on Facebook. We're just not going to do that. We don't.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just kidding.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that we're doing it the way. We're keeping it real the way we want to. I mean, what am I trying to say, Tom?
Yeah.
But
we're not going to sell out. We're not going to sell out for a few views.
Right, exactly. Yeah. We're just going to do our thing and oh yeah.
Well, we are getting close to the end of our time together here. I want to thank Thomas and Dorraine for coming on the show today, and the Crypto Crew. You can check out their website at www.thecryptocrew.com, and they also have a YouTube channel. Is that correct, Thomas?
Yeah, all the links are on the website to the YouTube channels and to our other social media sites.
So I'd like to thank you guys for coming on, and we'll talk to you again soon in the future. Join us next week. We've got Thomas Steenberg on, legendary Bigfooter from up North A, and we're excited to have him join us next week. And for all of our friends and listeners out there, we appreciate your support. You can find us on Facebook at just look up Monster X Radio and give us a like. So until next weekend, Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. This is Gunnar Monson and for Shane Corson and Monster X team, thanking you for joining us this weekend. We will talk to you soon. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Whoop.